presentation, please feel free to pop them in the comments box below. If I am new to you and you have enjoyed what I'm about to share, please give me a thumbs up and perhaps think about following the channel. Okay, so health and well-being. Now, I want to just put out a little bit of a disclaimer here, because health and well-being, I'm not talking about medical astrology in this presentation. Medical astrology is a huge topic, and as much as I have a very strong interest in it, I've certainly done some amazing courses from some incredible medical astrologers, but I am not a medical astrologer, and everything that I share in this today, I'm talking about the energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies along with the physical. So I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. So let me get underway and share the PowerPoint with you first. Okay, so here we go. Got to find out a way of doing this a little bit more practically on YouTube, but anyway, here we go now. So I hope you can see the screen. Health and well-being. What actually is it? So I want to invite you right now to just for a moment reflect on what health and well-being means to you. And in the course of this 7-part presentation, I have just pulled what I believe to be some very important threads, but we're going to go into that in just a moment. So let me get rid of this. Okay, let's take a look. Wellness. Now, health and well-being comes in many forms, and what has me feeling well may not have you feeling very well at all. And I just wanted to highlight at this moment of the presentation that we have all sorts of pieces that are about health and well-being. We have spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, social wellness, intellectual wellness, have to get my tongue around that one, vocational wellness, and so on, as you can see here in this diagram. As an Australian bush flower essence practitioner, and I really love the flower essences along with many other alternative modalities, I just want to say, working with our emotional, mental, and spiritual body is very important, because the emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies also need some TLC. And if we are only looking after the physical, it is very easy for these bodies to get out of balance. So health and well-being is this whole energetic, soulful program. You know, our soul comes into this lifetime with a contract, and there are many, many, many roots and threads to the core of what our soul is here to do in this lifetime. And being well is right up the top of the list, or at least it should be. And I don't like using the word should, but, you know, if to coin an old phrase, you know, if we don't have our health, we don't have much. And being healthy and well allows us to let our soul grow and evolve into its fullest potential when we feel vital. Anyway, we'll get to more of that as we go through the presentation. So, what I have chosen to share with you as to what is health and wellness and how can we work with it. So I have selected a number of pieces and I want to share them with you now. Sorry about the technology glitch here. I will get it right by the end of today, and the other 6 parts will be much smoother technologically speaking. So the first thing off the rank as far as health and wellness is concerned for me is the elements. Now I'm going to talk more about those in just a minute. The elements are the building blocks. They are absolutely fundamental astrological times tables. Now, when we're learning astrology, hopefully they're one of the first things that you learn in depth to understand. But from a health and well-being perspective, they are the building blocks of our, what we're made up of. And like I was referring to before, the emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical bodies are all there in the building blocks of the elements. So that's first cab off the rank. The moon. Now, the moon, which I'm going to be talking about in part 2, along with the sun, is a hugely important piece. And honestly, I probably could just make a 7-part series about the moon and health and well-being, but maybe another time. The sun, as I just said, also incredibly important piece of what keeps us shining, shall I say, for now. The North Node, the remedy, have to include the North Node in what's important. The ascendant, and I'm going to say the ascendant ruler, very, very important pieces of the topic that I'm talking about right now. The great goddess Hygeia. Now, Hygeia is, oh my goodness, she's a beautiful goddess. We're going to spend a bit of time talking about her over the coming weeks. And Hygeia is the daughter of Asclepius. And when we locate her and learn about her in our astrology charts, she gifts us so much rich and beautiful pieces as to why we've chosen Hygeia to be where she is, like all the planets, but also what it is that she has in store for us. So she's very, very important. We also, of course, have Mercury and the 6th house. So these are my priority lists, or list, I should say. We could look at everything in the chart. We could look at Venus, we could look at Mars, we could look at the outer planets, and so on, because all of them need to be in a healthy condition. But these ones are the ones that I feel, if we're really rolling and getting these ones right, I'll say right, then we're going to be well on the way to having good health. So let's explore the elements. So I just want to talk to you for a little bit about, knowing that someone might be watching this as an introduction to astrology, or you may be well and truly seeing clients and you've just come across this reel. Whatever the case, the elements, as I said, are the building blocks. And we have 4 elements astrologically that I'm going to speak about, just in brief for now. And that is fire, earth, air, and water. Now, according to the great Carl Jung, these 4 elements correlated to what he developed as his personality types or operating systems. And so let me share with you just for a moment what they are before I share a little bit more about the elements. So we have the intuitive function, which is fire. We have the sensate function, which is earth. We have the thinking function, which is air. And we have the water function, which is feelings. So the feeling function, the thinking function, the sensate function, and the intuitive function. And I'm talking about belly wisdom and confidence when I talk about that sense of knowing that fire is about. So take a moment again to just think about these elements in nature, because they are our greatest teachers. The element of fire. Think about fire in any form, be it a flame on a candle, be it a bushfire, be it a bonfire, or any form that comes to mind. And you are going to be able to describe it, feel it, sense it, and learn from it in nature, because the astrological elements play out just like that, in our charts. So fire is certainly, I just give you a little bit of a rundown here. Fire is confidence. Fire is spirit, spark, initiation, leadership. Earth, sensate. This is about the physical body. It's, in nature, we think about Earth. It's beautiful, it's stable, it's heavy, it's solid. We can apply all these rules and more to the element of Earth, the sensate function. Are you in touch with your body? Do you have regular routines? How stable are you? What does security mean to you? How do you tend to the practical things in life? If you have a green thumb, you will know that gardens need to be tended to with regularity. And they need watering, they need feeding, they are looked after in the right way, and they will give back tenfold. They are productive. We can reap the crops, feed ourselves, grow things. So Earth is a it is a very security conscious element, but it's Mother Nature in her finest form. Now, air, the thinking function, is all about the mind. And I'm just breaking these down in simple form right now. Air is communication, finding our voice, brainstorming, chatting, connecting, believing in our ideas, learning, developing our thought processes, digesting information. It's about movement, and it's about being able to, process what goes in here and let it spit out here in a way that's hopefully a little coherent. And it's definitely about the ability to expand our minds through understanding and developing our consciousness and being stimulated and developing our curiosity. So air is, in nature, air, a beautiful cool breeze, can be just so refreshing. We know that air carries things, and seeds go from one place to another, and then something new will grow. And so air is, really a breath of fresh air, the breath of life. Now, of course, all of these elements, and I'm just speaking, I'm going to have to go back to fire because I didn't give fire much of a talking or an introduction. But anyway, these are just introductions into the elements. And as I said, they're very important because when we look at our astrological elements in our chart, they tell us a lot about how we are functioning. Anyway, let me finish water and then I'll go back to fire for a moment. So, water, the feeling function, cleansing, reflective, floating, drowning. I don't want to focus too much on the shadow side of these elements right now. Water is really gentle and sensitive, and it's intuitive, and it's kind, and it has a knowing without too much needing to be said. And in nature, of course, we know water can be certainly very cleansing, very nourishing, very hydrating. It can carry us a long way. There are many undercurrents with water. And certainly water is about having closeness. That's a beautiful part of the element of water, that it brings us closer and helps us to discover compassion and true meaning. Now, let me go back to fire for a moment because I'm sorry, fiery people out there, I need to say just a little bit more about fire. So, fire is a spark of life. I'm sure most of you know, if you've sat around a bonfire, how incredibly magnetic, warming, and captivating it can be watching the flames as it keeps everybody warm and connected. And certainly fiery people can be really like that. They're magnetic. Their passion is contagious. They're really heartwarming. And certainly, when out of control, of course, we know all of the elements, when out of control, have their shadow negative pieces to them. But fire, in regard to the uplifting side, is about fueling us. And when we're well fueled, we're able to travel forever. When we're able to get in touch with our belly wisdom and our knowing, and we're able to create new projects. And actually, creativity is certainly very much a fire concept. So here is a very small introduction into the elements. So let's just recap that, shall we? So I talked about the elements, and now I want to just talk a little bit about strongest opposed to lacking, because when we look at our charts, you may have loads of fire and no water, or you may have loads of water and no fire. You could have a whole number of combinations, but when we understand the predominant element in our chart, that element is like a compass that's always pointing to the north, or an engine at the base of a ship that's driving the ship through the ocean. It is pushing you from behind, and it's powerful. And it can get out of control, and we need to be able to work with it. First, we have to understand it. So it can be a healthy resource, not draining us. Lacking elements are gifts for healing. If you have an element, and chances are, I'm just going to say here, when you look at the composition of a chart and you look at the building blocks that we're talking about right now, the elements of the chart, 9 out of 10 times you see a predominance and a lack, at least one of each. It is very unusual to see someone that has a perfectly balanced chart. So I just wanted to flag that with you. But the lacking element is a gift, because it's like a void. And that void, on a subconscious level, because remembering elements are subconscious by nature, has a knowing of something that needs to be filled. When anything is empty, we generally want to fill it. Women particularly good at that. The bigger the handbag, the more we put in it. But if your kitchen cupboards were bare, you'd be wanting to fill them with food. So when you have a lacking element, it subconsciously feels like something you want to fill. Now, there's a reason for that, because you're here to learn about it. Anyway, whatever the lacking element is, it is a gift for healing, and it is going to become a big predominance in your life as you seek out and acknowledge what you are here to discover and integrate, so it becomes a big part of your healing gift. Now, weighting the elements, I'm actually not going to get into right now, because this is not a talk actually on the elements, and I don't want to confuse people. But certainly there is a system of weighting the elements. And if anyone out there who is an astrologer that wants to know more about this, pop a weighting, in the word weighting, in the box, and I'll send you a sheet all about weighting the elements. But I just did want to mention that there is a process that we can go through when looking at a chart that gives us a much clearer, what weighting does is gives us a clearer view of how the elements are functioning, which gives us a clearer view on the predominances and the lacks, which gives us a clearer view on how to work with the elements from a health and well-being building block perspective. And finally, blend the element mix to gain support and well-being. As I was just saying, this is really an incredible opportunity when we look at something that seems so simple, yet is so important in our understanding and our foundations, because we're working with the elements. The foundation, we're talking about the fundamental foundations of which everything else is built on. So just to recap that, fire, earth, air, and water, the function of intuition, of sensate, the physical body, of the mind, thinking, and of the heart, feeling. And when we work with these elements on a holistic perspective, we can gain all sorts of insight into what is powering us and what is seeking us to find out more so that we can have that as a healing gift, and how that impacts our emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental health. And I've never yet seen a chart where this is not an accurate thing. So that completes. Let me come back and see you in a little more fullness. Okay, that completes part 1 of our health and well-being sharing. If you want more information about what I've talked about today, or as I said, you want more information about waiting, just pop in the comments below, waiting or more information, and I'm very happy to send it to you. So stay tuned. In part 2, I am going to be talking about the sun and the moon and how they play a part in our health and well-being, and what you can do to really embrace them and get the most out of what they're offering you astrologically. So until then, have a beautiful day, everyone, and bye for now.